Well, today we're here with Jennifer Peters, the General Manager of Grapes and Grains, and this is Alpharetta, is it not?
Johns Creek, officially.
Johns Creek, close. So, Jennifer, we had some questions that Team Bourbon and I came up with that we thought only an expert like you could answer for us.
Okay.
So,
we'll give it a shot.
First, how did you get started in this industry?
I kind of fell backwards into this industry, to be honest. I took a part-time job at a liquor store just for some extra money, and because I love to learn, I found there was a lot to learn. Ended up taking a trip up to Kentucky and just falling in love with bourbon. The craftsmanship of it. Kentucky, go to the Bourbon Trail area.
The Bourbon Trail,
yeah.
Bardstown, Louisville.
Literally started right in Bardstown, did the loop around Louisville, Lexington, all the fun places to go. So.
Wow. Well then, tell us about becoming a certified bourbon steward. What is that all about?
So there's a company up in Kentucky called Stave and Thief. And there's very little certification in the way of bourbon specifically. But when I started looking into it, they do a very unique program that kind of just does a basic introduction to bourbon, then gives you some more details. And so I thought it'd be fun just to go through and try to do, and ordered the book because they let you order it online and do the whole first step online. And so during COVID, it was something fun to do. So since I'd been in the industry for a while, I said, well, I love this already. Let's see what we can do. So got the book, went through, studied, and then you go and you take an online test that's timed and answer the questions and write up an essay for the question they have for you. And
interesting.
Yeah, wordy essay. Have to remember all your schooling at that point. But it was a lot of fun just to do, and then they send you your pass-fail score, and then you get your certified bourbon steward pin and some logos for your business cards as well. They do have an executive bourbon steward, which I am planning to go get, but that's more hands-on distilling and tasting profiles and things like that. But it was a lot of fun as just something to kind of add to my repertoire of things as I really like to learn.
Is it something you have to renew every so many years?
No, it's a one and done thing.
Wow, that's nice. So, what is the biggest challenge? You have a really large store here with a huge selection. What is the biggest challenge in running a store like this?
I think with most businesses, it's staffing right now. You know, trying to make sure that you have everybody to make sure your shelves are full, to make sure that they can help all your customers. That's just as with any business, one of the hardest things right now is making sure you have people that not just can work, but can know what they're doing. You know your products, know how to show people what is what. So having people that are knowledgeable in this industry is a little more difficult. Because you can find anybody who can come just stock your shelf, but having someone that can answer a question for a customer or that can, direct them towards something that they're looking for is a little more challenging.
So do you like put them through a little bit of training after they get here?
We do. We walk them through certain things when they first get here. We try to get people that have some experience in the industry so they have a little more knowledge base. If not, we always encourage asking questions anytime they want. We have little learning things we put up in our break room about different products so that they're constantly able to learn what new things we're getting and some more stuff about what we already have.
So, which brings us to our next question, and I think Andrew helped me with this one.
Okay.
How do you choose the stock? All the stock that we see here for Grapes and Grains, how does that chosen?
We have an amazing buyer who does a great job making sure we have all of our core brands. Because you have, the things you need to have, the recognized brands, Jack, Makers, things that people know. You want those on the shelves, but then you want to give shelf space to all those up-and-comers that are bringing great products to the market, but at the same time, maybe new to the business, doesn't have, the support of a massive conglomerate. So we'll give anything a chance, at least once. We'll put it on and see how it does. But mostly it comes down to what our customers want. If our customers want something, they come ask us, we're happy to stock it for them as long as we can get it.
So how do you, these store picks, we see that you have a lot of store picks
Yes.
up front. How are those chosen?
So that is done with a little group that we have. Our buyer gets together with the managers and a couple other people on the staff that have some really great palettes, and the suppliers will send us samples. So we get a couple different barrels to choose from. So we will taste through and go through and select the one that we like best. If we don't like any of them, we send them back and we get more.
Wow.
If we like more than one, sometimes we'll buy more than one.
So they come to you to bring. You always see these elaborate, displays where they're going and they're taking that. I forget what that device that goes in the barrel and pulling it out. And like, does everyone get to do that?
No, I mean, there are times you can go do that. There are times you can go up to Kentucky or Tennessee or wherever the distillery is, and you can do a barrel pick up there. There are several groups that do, but 90% of the barrels are not chosen that way. It's you get samples, y'all sit down, you taste the samples, and you pick the one you want.
Typically, how many bottles do you get out of a barrel if you do a barrel pick?
Oh, that is...
Is that like depending on whether it's cast strength?
Yeah, it depends on a lot of things. If you're doing it cast strength, how old the barrel is, how much evaporation has come out of the barrel.
Right.
If you're barreling at it had bottled in bond, if you're barreling at 80, if you're barreling at cast strength, because it depends on just so many different factors, even the size, that amount of whiskey that's still in the barrel before you start the process. So the older it is, generally the less whiskey is in the barrel, and if you're doing it at barrel proof, you're going to get the fewest amount of bottles. However, if you're cutting it down to like 100 proof, or some of them don't even give you a choice, they say we're bottling it at this. It can't be less than 80, but sometimes they have it at like 92 or 95. Usually when you get your samples are either at the proof that you're going to get to have the barrel at, or it's at cast strength and you have to pick a proof.
Wow. That's a lot of information, Andrew. What trends do you see in bourbon that are taking off, and which ones are now fading?
I think non-traditional bourbons are really still on the rise. A lot of these finishes, a lot of the people are trying to add different flavors to bourbon without, quote unquote, adding flavors. So there's a lot of finishing going on that is outside of your traditional bourbon set. Right. You've got your base bourbons, which give you all your wonderful flavors that you have to work and wait for. And then we're doing all these different finishes and blends, and I think that's one of the things that's still going on. I don't know if it's going to go away anytime soon. For example, Ambarina is the newest trend right now. That is a finishing. One person does it, and suddenly we have, 15 or 16 on the market now? Because it's a different flavor. It's something new. It's a different option. So I think you see these kind of jump up and jump down and jump up and jump down. Very few of them stick around a long time, but everybody looks for something different to blend with or finish with. Oh yeah,
I think I've got at least 5 different Ambarina finishes, and there's more.
I think we have like 6 or 7 on the wall right now. So
wow, I guess I need to go to the checkout. So everyone hates allocations in bourbon. Are they coming to an end anytime soon, or are they here to stay?
I wish they would come to an end, but unfortunately I don't foresee it coming to an end anytime soon, simply because of supply and demand. You can only make so much, and things are constantly in demand, and especially since everything that's gone on, bourbon has absolutely exploded. Everybody's discovered it, wants it. And then unfortunately there's that secondary market where people want to take it and use it for profit as well. So I don't see it going away anytime soon, as much as I don't like it either, because I want to have the products for my customers to pick up. I want to be able to say, here, take as much as you want. We have this. But unfortunately, there's some products we get a case every 3 months, and that case can be 6 bottles. Or I get a case every other month, and it might be 12 bottles, it might be 2 bottles, and sometimes we just get a bottle or 2, and we're a large store, and we have a second store. But even with our buying power, there's times we only get a bottle or 2 of some things. So allocations are not my favorite, because we want happy customers. We want everybody to be able to try these because it's an amazing bourbon. So it's harder when things are, you just can't order it, you just have to wait for it to show up.
Yeah, we saw that with 13th Colony recently. They were double oaked. How I had stores saying that, we're going to get some, and they never got some.
Yeah, and that just, it's difficult because everybody wants it, because everybody wants to get it to their customers, but there's also, in Georgia specifically, since COVID, there have probably been about 50 to 100 new stores that have opened. So what used to be allocated to, 2,000 stores, which is probably a low number, is now, 2,200 stores. So you have more people in the market buying and selling, but the same bottles to go around. So everybody then gets a few bottles less. And unfortunately, there are stores that just don't get any. And that again goes back to that supply, but they can only make so much.
That's true, and we'll drink it as fast as they'll make it.
Well, and we drink it faster than they make it because, it takes time. And unfortunately, bourbon's not an instantaneous product like vodka or gin. You'd have to wait on it. It's a patience.
We see more and more celebrities getting involved, either owning or endorsing bourbons. What do you think of this trend?
I don't really see that as a trend that's going to last a lot long term because, we see a lot of celebrities get involved, but bourbon is less about the fame behind it and more about the flavor behind it. If you get a bottle of bourbon, doesn't matter who makes it. If you like it, you're going to drink it. If you don't, you're not. You might buy it the first time because somebody has their name on it, but if you don't like it, I promise you're never going to buy it again.
Yeah,
and you'll tell everybody else, that's not a great whiskey.
I had that experience with Sweetens Cove, and I won't comment on that. But yeah, I got hooked in, like right in.
There's some that are well worth the label on the bottle, and there's some that aren't. It's a matter of bourbon is so subjective. Everybody has a different taste, and what you love, I may hate. What I love, you may hate. So it's a matter of finding what you like in a whiskey, as opposed to just what everybody else likes.
And isn't that what you try to get out of the customer when they come in? They add, what do you like? It's not about what you like.
Yeah. I get that question a lot. Like, well, what do you like to drink? I'm like, well, what I like to drink is, I prefer this kind of setup, but I drink it all. I have an appreciation for everything on this wall. Now, am I going to drink it all the time? No. There's some that I'm like, okay, it's nice. I see the quality behind it. Just not what I'm going to pick every day. But there's people who love things that are at cask strength. They like the fire, they like the heat, they like high rise, they like spice. There's people who love wheated. They're two different ends of the spectrum, and that's why we have a wall full of whiskey. It's a large spectrum that people like to pick from. So we don't do very much like to find out what someone else likes to make sure that we're getting you something that you're going to enjoy. If you tell me that you like wheated, I can say, well, I know that this is wheated and this is wheated and this is wheated. If you like high proof, you're going to like this and you're going to like that. You're not going to like this down here that's going to be fire and spice because that's not in what you enjoy drinking. So it's my favorite thing that I tell people is it's kind of like online dating. It all looks really nice on the shelf and everything has its own descriptor and it sounds really good, but you may get it home and absolutely hate it. And it's not exactly living up to the hype of what you read or what you saw.
I'm sure glad I don't do that anymore.
So it's a little bit more helpful when you have somebody to guide you along the path to say, well, okay, this is this, this is this. And when you have somebody who knows, it's a little easier to trust that, okay, I'm going to have a better chance of liking this. It's kind of like having a friend recommend someone to you rather than picking them off a dating site. You're getting someone who's had the whiskey, somebody who knows the whiskey, and can say, well, this is going to be something you enjoy, as opposed to, well, this looks good. It's got a good rating. Maybe I'll like it. And you get it home and you're like, wow, I don't like this at all.
Do you have the occasional customer that says, I want to try bourbon and I have no idea. This whiskey wall is huge. I have no idea where to start.
All the time. I generally go with what I call my safe bet whiskeys, kind of the middle of the road bourbons that have some rye, but are not overly spiced. They're not too alcoholic. Woodford is always a great place to start. Four Roses is always a great place to start. Yeah. So is Old Forester. They're kind of right there in that middle subset. That it's a great place to start because it showcases both sides of bourbon. You get a little caramel, you get a little spice, and you get some great character without feeling overwhelmed or somebody saying, oh, try this cask strength, which might knock you in the face with alcohol and turn you off of it completely.
Yes. Are you listening, folks?
So it's always good to start somewhere. Like, you don't have to start at the top, because if you start at the top, you might be disappointed and be like, why does somebody like this?
And why did I spend $100 on that bottle?
Well, and some of it can be, if you're just starting, your palate for bourbon may not have developed as well as in the same aspect, because what you taste when you first taste the bourbon may not be the same thing you taste 5 years in when you drink the same whiskey. It's going to be because you develop your palate and you can actually start to see the layers of flavor in it, and the more you try, the more you understand the different aspects of the flavor.
Wow. That's a lot to learn here at Grapes and Grains. Craft bourbon. I love a good craft bourbon. I've been kind of on this craft bourbon trail lately. Do you think craft bourbons have hit its peak, or will they continue to grow?
I think they're going to continue to grow, but I think you're going to see a changeover in a few trends. You know, when a distillery starts, obviously they can't start with an 8-year-old whiskey.
Right.
So they usually source those whiskeys to start. So what you start to see is you see a lot of bottles pop up really quickly.
Yeah.
And not a lot of those stick around, because a lot of the times when they start making their own, they have a hard time in that transition going from what everybody knows their brand to be to something that they're now making.
Tastes different.
It does. It's because it's a different thing. It's something that they've made as opposed to something they've bought and put in a bottle. So a lot of those, when they go to change over, you start to see a trend of whether people are going to stick with them or not.
Wow.
So as these distilleries get older and they're going to start branching out and making their own, you're going to see a lot of different whiskeys because they're going to experiment a little more because they want to see what they want their brand to be.
And you really don't know when you buy a craft bourbon or whiskey whether it's sourced or not. I mean, I know, correct me if I'm wrong, they have to tell you the state that it was distilled in.
Usually there's a distillery number on most of them, and they do have to tell you generally where it comes from, but most things have their own designation. If it's under bourbon, there's different rules they have, what they have to have on the label, as opposed to if they just call it a whiskey.
For example, if the company is out of Illinois and it's distilled in Indiana, I think a lot of people know which distillery is coming from, but that's not an automatic indication that it's not theirs. It just means they may just distill it in another state and bring it here and bottle it.
They do. A lot of places will do that, but generally, if it's a young distillery or a brand new distillery, and they're pumping out, we have this amazing 8-year-old, 7-year-old whiskey. Obviously, it's not from them. They've either partnered with somebody or they've been distilling in secret for a while and suddenly are releasing their stuff. But generally, when new distilleries open, everybody kind of knows, especially in our industry.
Yeah.
So, you look at these things, and after 2 years, they can bottle their own. They just have to tell you it's less than 2 years old.
That's the rule, 2 years?
Bourbon has to be a minimum of 2 years. Now, if you're doing straight or if you're doing anything else, that designates other aging aspects.
But that means in the barrel for 2 years.
Correct.
Okay.
And if it's under the age of 4, that has to be on the label somewhere. If it's 4 years old or younger, by bourbon standard and law, they have to put that on the bottle.
Really? I didn't
So
know
anything
that.
over 4, fair game. But at 4 years or younger, they have to put that on the bottle. Sometimes it's very tiny on the back and the bottom corner of the label, but it's there.
Well, that's what I kind of like about the bottled and bond. You kind of getting to a standard. It's certain levels of distillation where they made it. It's been in a barrel a certain number of years. It's a certain proof. So when I didn't know, if I saw something I was interested in, I would go to a bottled and bond. Is that a fair?
It is fair. Bottled and bond's kind of what they developed back before we had labeling laws and back before we had standards of what things had to be. It was a standard because during Prohibition and after Prohibition, there were people that were putting turpentine in bottles with coloring and
yummy.
selling it, and it was unfortunately killing people. And so Colonel E.H. Taylor is actually who went and sat down with the president, put some whiskey glasses in front of him and said, one of these is bourbon and one is not. Which one would you drink? And he refused to drink, and so they kind of set up bottled and bond as a way to say, what is in this bottle is government guaranteed that it's what's on the label. So they had different taxes, but it's aged in a government-controlled warehouse. It all has to be distilled in one distilling season, so it can't be throughout the year. And then they do it at 100 proof because they decided that was the best proof for bourbon at the time.
My favorite proof, by the way, is 100.
I do like it as well.
All right. What is coming up for Grapes and Grains going into the fall and holidays? We always see a lot of new releases, and what do you know is coming that I don't, that our viewers don't, coming soon?
Every year around, November time used to be the big whiskey drops of the year, the ones that only dropped once a year. You used to see them come out in November. usually a week or two before Thanksgiving. That's less the case now. Unfortunately, they've started to spread them out. More things that used to come out in November, move to December, move to January, move to we don't even know when it shows up anymore.
Yeah, I saw the 1792 came out with their bottled bond and foolproof and single barrel really ahead of the fall season.
And those are supposed to be things that release year round. I know we have several single barrels that have been selected that we're waiting on. Not going to name names because that just causes more of a stir.
Yeah.
A lot of our single barrels that we get, we'll hint at it a little bit, but when we get them, they don't last very long. We recently had our short barrel pick come in. It came in on a Tuesday. It was gone by Friday.
So how do your customers know that you've got stuff coming in? Do they follow you on Facebook, Instagram, that kind of thing?
We have an Instagram account. I know we have a Facebook account. We do try to publish up when we get our new barrels. Generally goes out of our Instagram first. When we get them in to say, hey, our new barrel is here, we do as much as we can to promote it, to let people know when it comes in. And even on some of the barrels, if it's something that we don't get a lot of, we will limit it to 1 bottle per customer because we want to give everybody a chance to try something.
That's
as
fair.
opposed to somebody coming in, I want 3 cases of that, and then they run out the door. Like, no, we want everybody to have the option to try it. So on things that are super limited, at least for the first week or two, it's about 1 bottle. After that, it's a free-for-all because that's giving everybody a chance to get in here and grab a bottle.
Wow.
But most of the time, it doesn't even last that long. So,
well, we've saved the best question for last,
Okay.
and you can blame me for this one.
okay.
If you had ultimate power in the bourbon world, what one thing would you change in the bourbon world?
So many things. Yeah, I would destroy the secondary market. I hate it. I think everybody hates it. Even as a retailer, we don't like it because you've got people that just want to take everything and go sell it again. I hate the secondary. It drives prices up. It drives demand up. It just limits people's access to the whiskey. And
I agree.
I hate it.
I always see these lines in the distillery tours, and I'm thinking, all these local people, they really need that much bourbon, or are they going in to buy it for the secondary market?
And you never know. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
Sometimes my favorite is when people send their wives and say, hi, do you have this or do you have that? Trying to play dumb or, it's too easy to see. But, because they'll be on the phone, ask them if they have,
Do you have a Blanton's?
Do you happen to have Blanton's? Do you have any Pappy Van Winkle? No.
Oh, the best one I ever heard is like, you have Blanton's? What letter is on the little topper? Click.
Everybody wants something, and unfortunately, it's a difficulty trying because like I said, we only get so much of certain things. So it's either that or the sourcing market. Either one of those would be something that I'd change because while I love that it gives up people an opportunity, what you're having is the same whiskey. If you got rid of sourcing, my wall would probably be half the size, but we'd still have some really good quality whiskeys. It would just be easier for people to find them because there wouldn't be 100 different labels with 100 different whiskeys.
Well, you got a great store here.
Thank you.
On a separate video, we're going to do what we call the store picks, and we're going to show you all that Grapes and Grains and Jennifer has to offer. So make sure you look for that on our playlist, and thank you very much, Jennifer,
Absolutely.
for
Thank you guys
being
for
with
coming
us
by.
today and our viewers, and thank you, Andrew, for running the camera.